I'm going to try not to cry, but fair warning, this is probably going to get emotional. Hi guys, I'm Libby and welcome to Punsy's Palace, where I do all things Disney, hence Punsy, and all things regarding my life and home, hence my palace. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit subscribe down below for more Disney and lifestyle content. So today is Father's Day, but I lost my dad in December of 2019. So it's been a bit over a year since he has no longer been in my life. And I won't go into too much detail about any of that, but it was something that we did know that was coming for a little while. It didn't make it any less hard to deal with, and I still can't really believe that he is gone. But since I did lose him at a pretty early stage in my life at 22, I wanted to make sure that I don't forget any memories of him. I'm lucky to have had 22 wonderful, amazing years of memories with him, but I want to do something each year to commemorate what he means to me. So my dad was a huge part of my life, and he means the absolute world to me, and he was like my favorite person. So he introduced me to theater and he encouraged me to pursue that. He took me to so many shows, plays, festivals, museums, parks, and so much more. And with each year, I think I'll probably talk more about the memories of each of those things that he showed to me. But this year I wanted to kind of just keep things simple and revolve it just around Disney. My dad enjoyed Disney. He did take my sisters and I to Disney World quite often, quite a few times, but I will say he was much more of a Universal Parks person, had a lot more adult roller coasters that he really liked a lot more at the time, but I do still remember seeing plenty of shows with him at Disney, and the more I dive into kind of the past of the Disney parks and history as well as Universals, the more memories I discover that I may have forgotten a lot of details to. There are so many rides that I have like vague memories of, and then I'll see it pop up again in somebody's like old video and it's like, oh, you guys remember this ride? And I'm like, I do actually. But today I'm going to go through some different Disney movies that remind me of my dad in some way, to share those memories with you, as well as to have this as sort of a kind of time capsule of memories to look back on in the future. So I hope you enjoy, and make sure to hold on to your loved ones very tight. So the first movie is 10 Things I Hate About You. So not the first Disney movie you would probably think of, but it is on Disney Plus, so it counts. My dad showed this movie to my sisters and I, and me probably at way too young of an age, but that just means as I got older, I understood more and more of it. And it's a modern movie that is based on Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, and my dad loved movies that did this, where they were clever to think of ways to retell familiar stories with a different kind of twist. He hates all of the different remakes that people keep doing. He was always interested in something original and new, but he also found retellings to be quite inventive. So he took my sisters and I to Shakespeare festivals a lot, and once he and I found out about the American Shakespeare Center up in Staunton, Virginia, oh my gosh, we saw about a dozen of their different shows, and we didn't discover them till like late in high school for me. But 10 Things I Hate About You, the movie contains a song that is very, very special to me and very sentimental for me for a whole slew of different reasons, not all just because it was in this movie, but it was going to be my father-daughter dance at my wedding, so it still makes me very emotional to even hear it. Movie number 2 is Anastasia. Again, I know it's not really Disney, but it's on Disney Plus. I swear, there are actual Disney movies that come up on this list. So this mostly reminds me of my dad because of the musical Anastasia. He took me to see the touring production of it, so now anytime I play my little music box back here with that melody, it reminds me of him. And that little like 2-day adventure that we had to go and see the musical was filled with us watching a ton of cheesy Hallmark Christmas movies on Netflix, binging them in the hotel room, as well as playing a game of guessing the very predictable plot lines and guessing, oh, are they gonna kiss this time, or is it another just almost kiss? And that was really fun. Number 3 is every Marvel movie, every single one. I saw pretty much every single one with my dad in theaters, or if not in theaters, then at home. And I still remember going to the theater with him for the very first Iron Man, and he was so excited that they were starting to do more and more Marvel movies, and they were starting to get like really good. He has a whole comic book collection, mostly Marvel, and I could really tell that he was excited to see these things come alive and see what else they would do. His favorite favorite Marvel characters included Doctor Doom from Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, not a fan of the Nicolas Cage movie though, as well as Daredevil, and he was a fan of the Netflix series, and we watched all of those episodes together, and it was really, really good. It was exactly what he really wanted it to be, as opposed to the Ben Affleck movie of it that came out in the early 2000s. So yes, the characters that I just mentioned that are his favorites, they're not really big in the MCU movies, but he did really enjoy those movies too, and I saw so many of them with him. And he really did also enjoy seeing Thanos come to power and how all of those things connected, but he was also a really huge fan of the X-Men movies, which is also Marvel, so we saw a lot of those together as well. Number 4 is Beauty and the Beast. So this movie has a lot of different reasons. All don't really have to do with the movie for it reminding me of him. So first, there's the fact that my dad looked pretty intimidating to almost everyone who met him, but because I was his little girl, he never really scared me. I always saw him as just a giant teddy bear, and so anytime a character kind of resembles that, it makes me think of him, aka the Beast. Also, he played the Beast in the Enchanted Tales with Belle in Magic Kingdom when we went to go and see that before it became like a much bigger, elaborate attraction that it is now, and it's still my favorite memory from the parks. But even more than that, the day I found out he had cancer, my fiance, then boyfriend, Michael, took me to see the new live-action Beauty and the Beast movie that had just come out to try to cheer me up, because I couldn't see him right away because I was at college, so I always have that little memory. Every time I see the live action, that's kind of what I think of. But even more than that, the song Evermore from the live action also really reminds me of him. My dad had a really good, really deep singing voice, and the way that that song is kind of sung really reminds me of him, as well as the fact that if you hear that song and you kind of think of it from not only his perspective of kind of losing me as his little girl, but also my perspective since now that he's gone, really just tears at your heart. Movie number 5 is The Incredibles 2, specifically the second one. So while I think I may have seen the first one with my dad, I know I saw the second one with him in theaters for Father's Day once. While we both very much predicted the ending very early on, I still absolutely love seeing it with him and hearing him absolutely just crack up at Violet spewing water from her nose in the diner. I feel like he laughed so hard because it probably brought back memories of him embarrassing us in public, and he probably got a good giggle from that. Number 6 is The Lion King. So everyone cries at Mufasa's death. Yeah, duh. It's depressing. As a kid, I felt that super hard because I couldn't even bear the thought to lose my dad at such a young age. And I didn't lose him as a kid, but I still lost him too soon. But more than just the movie The Lion King, my dad really also enjoyed The Lion King shows at Animal Kingdom when we went, and he also took me to see a touring production of The Lion King musical for Christmas one year, and it was so cool to see that on stage. And I still have some ornaments that he bought, as well as the signed cast poster. But what really gets me in the feels about Lion King and my dad is some of the songs, especially from the musical, specifically Endless Night and He Lives in You reprise. So He Lives in You, pretty obvious about how Mufasa lives on in Simba, and obviously that means a lot to me now that my dad is gone. But Endless Night is a very underrated song, and it's a very powerful ballad by Simba talking to his deceased father about how the night never seems to end since he's been gone, and that just packs a punch, but it does have a very uplifting end to the song. I know that the night must end and that the sun will rise, so I try to remember that. Movie number 7 is The Little Mermaid. So this is a rather small one, but when Ariel says, "I love you, Daddy," at the end, it still gets to me. It reminds me of my dad for some reason. I can't really explain it. Also, I sadly made my poor dad watch Little Mermaid 3, Ariel's beginning. He laughed at some of the obscenity of it, and I'm glad that he loved us all enough to let us pick the movies at times. Even if he didn't like them, he would still watch them all the way through. I appreciate him for that, because rewatching some of them, I'm like, oh god, I'm sorry, Dad. Number 8 is all of the Pirates movies. All of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. movies. Mainly the first three, but all of them. Because man, did my dad love getting us into so many different franchises of movies. He liked Star Wars too, by the way, but I just never really got into them with him. I do remember sleeping in the movie theater on his lap during Revenge of the Sith. I was young and tired, okay? It's fine. But oh man, did we love to go and see the Pirates movies. The original three, of course, because they were the best. I still remember my dad being absolutely so excited that Barbossa was back at the end of the second movie. Like, I distinctly remember that happening in the theater, and I just remember rewatching them a lot with him at home, and they're great movies, and I'm really glad that I share all of those memories with him. Number 9 is WreckIt Ralph. Okay, so the only memories I really have of this movie with my dad are that he thought it was weird I wanted to see this movie in theaters for a second time with him, but that's just how much I love the movie. I had seen it once before, and then I was like, I want to watch it again. He was like, you've already seen it though. Like, yeah, well, let's go again. And the second memory is that he also totally saw the twist with King Candy coming, which made me upset because I didn't see it coming. Number 10 are the Santa Claus movies. Oh my god, these movies! So more specifically Santa Claus 2, but we liked all of them. But specifically Santa Claus 2 because of Plastic Santa. My dad thought he was hilarious, and we would quote him all of the time. My sister and I still do quote him all of the time because it's hilarious. And the little dance thing he does in the credits at the end, I still have a very, very vivid image of my dad doing that dance, and it cracks me up. And now the last movie, number 11, Onward. This is the last movie, and I saved this one for last because this is the only movie on this list that I didn't watch with my dad because it came out in March of 2020, and it was after his passing. And I kind of feel like Pixar was really rude with this movie because so much of it reminded me of my dad and his passing. So first off, it's all set in a fairy tale fantasy land with very much D&D, Dungeons and Dragons stuff very prominent. And my dad, he was a giant nerd and he loved all of that stuff, and he got me into all of that fantasy stuff. So there's that. Then there's the fact that the entire premise of the film revolves around them trying to get their father back for just one day. And that really hits home. Then there's Barley's speech about seeing his dad when he was sick, which is very, very relevant. There's the scene of Ian listening to the recording of his dad, which I have a lot of saved voicemails of my dad, so also very relevant. Then there's the list of all the things that Ian wants to do with his dad, which reminds me of a list of things that I had, that I wanted to do with my dad, and it just goes on and on with this movie. It's like one of my favorite Pixar movies, but sadly I've only seen it like twice because it makes me bawl every single time. Luckily, when I went to see it for the first time in theaters, I was with Michael, and we were the only two in the theater because it was the week that COVID was starting to hit. So we were the only two in the theater, and it's a good thing because I was sobbing like the entire time. I really enjoyed the movie, but I was sobbing. I really want to rewatch it a lot more, but I can't because it makes me cry every time, and I don't want to always cry all the time. But I guess it's just a way of showing me that my dad is always with me, even when he's gone. So those were just a few little bits of memories of my dad in regards to some Disney films that I enjoyed watching with him or that remind me of him. I'm sure I'll try to do something like this every year to share even more memories, try to do them in different kind of categories kind of like this, so that way I can look back on them and relive all those memories for years to come. But I hope you have a very happy Father's Day with or without your father or a father figure in your life, and either give them a hug or reflect on your own memories with them. I'm very lucky to have had a dad that was as wonderful a man as he was. So comment down below any of your favorite memories with your dad or a father figure that you love in your life, or just your favorite Disney dad. I hope you have a very good day and try to make it as magical as possible. And until next time, farewell.